Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. As you can see, I am still at the girlfriend's house, so a little bit different of a setup. I'm doing what I can. Today we're going to be talking about Barbie and the Barbie movie, kind of. It kind of pertains to that. I'm sure if you've been on social media at all recently, you have been inundated with Barbie marketing. It's been everywhere. I actually think I'm gonna go see the movie. I haven't watched the movie as I'm recording this. It actually hasn't come out yet, but I do think that I'm gonna go see it. But there has been some drama on social media around this. I mean, there's been a ton, but what we're going to be talking about today is going to be centered around the TikTok star Samira, and she released some videos where she was actually at one of the premieres that they had for the movie, and she was just having a good time. I'll play some of those here. On one of those videos, someone left a comment that said, "Why would you want a black obese Barbie? That defeats the purpose." And this was her response to that comment.
Well, now let's have a conversation. What is the purpose of Barbie? And no, that question is not rhetorical. Let's talk about it. What about my size, my race does not make me Barbie? Why am I not something that people can aspire to be? Why am I not something you want people to be? Now, those questions, those are rhetorical. But if you found yourself trying to answer them, then I think you might be misled on what the purpose of Barbie is. Have a great day.
So that response, I think, elicited quite the response from different types of people. When I first saw it, I think that it's interesting because as someone that, I'm 30 now, and so I grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s, and I think around that time, Barbie, again, this is coming from a dude, right? I never actually had a Barbie, I don't think, or a Ken doll or anything like that. I had like the G.I. Joes and I had a lot of Dragon Ball Z action figures growing up. But it seemed like when I was growing up, Barbie was a very specific thing, right? It was like the skinny white Barbie, right? That we all that a lot of people think of when they think of Barbie. But I was actually talking to my girlfriend and other people, and she pointed out that Barbie has always kind of been more, I don't know, I guess progressive might be the term, but like back in the day, right? And like I don't know what year, 70s, 80s, I don't know, but they came out with like Barbies that had jobs and like that were doctors and stuff, and like around that time, a lot of people were like, hold up a second, women are supposed to be doing this. And so there actually is kind of a history of Barbie being what people might think it wouldn't be. Samira actually did a few TikToks. She's doing a series right now. I don't know if she's going to continue doing it, but where she says like different types of Barbies that she would be. And so she has Harvard Barbie, football Barbie, super star Barbie as like Barbies that she could be. And the whole thing is like, this is a Barbie that she could be regardless of her weight. I'll play one of them right here.
Barbies I can be that have nothing to do with my weight. Superstar Barbie. This Barbie was born to be a star. Vibe magazine said she's one of this generation's most talented artists. Her innate talent, combined with 8 years of classical vocal training, is the perfect formula for stardom. Leading musicals, singing competitive opera, and music directing an award-winning a cappella group was not enough for this Barbie. Naturally, she had to release her own music. What started as a class project turned into a viral hit. But this Barbie did not stop there. She has since released 2 more singles, with plenty more on the way. I heard there's something dropping this Friday. Dress rehearsal starting. See you at the Grammys.
So I think that that's obviously really cool. She's clearly had a lot of accomplishments in her life. She's done quite a few things, right? And honestly, like this video isn't really about her. I don't really want to focus too much on her because that's just not what I want to do. But I do think that it's interesting when we talk about Barbie and like, especially when we're talking about like representation and having diversity or whatever, right? So, because I think a lot of people, when they think of Barbie, they think of that like typical skinny white Barbie. But it seems that Barbie themselves are kind of trying to branch off of that. You could argue, if you want to be cynical, which I definitely understand, that they're just doing it because they want to make money, which, I mean, I guess you could use that argument for literally everything that anybody does in our society now. And so, I mean, I guess I wouldn't be able to argue against that. But I do, like, the way I feel, like, how do I feel about it? I personally don't see that big of an issue, like having a Barbie that's a little bit overweight, right? I remember a few years ago that was a huge thing when they released the Barbie that was like a little bit overweight and people freaked out. For me, I think it comes down to, and this is something that I've talked about quite a bit on the channel, is that I don't think just having someone that is overweight or even obese, just featuring them, is in and of itself promoting obesity, right? This is what we've talked about whenever there's, you know, a bigger person on the front of a magazine, or whenever someone is just posting a TikTok, they're not talking about weight at all, and they're just existing in a body that maybe isn't thin, people will say, you're promoting obesity. I do think that there are people that do quote unquote promote obesity, and I will go against those things and say, hey, I disagree with that, right? But I don't think that someone just existing in and of itself is promoting obesity. Just like I personally don't think that there being an overweight Barbie would be promoting obesity to young women. That's just me. That's just how I feel. The way I see it is like, you know, it's sad, but it's true that there are a lot of, you know, childhood obesity rates are up. Like there's a lot of people that aren't quote unquote thin, right? And so I think it makes sense to have Barbies that are not super thin. I think that some people go over the top. It's not like they're putting Barbies out that are like, you know, my 500 pound life Barbie, where they're like coming with like a mobility scooter or something like that. Honestly, I think if they did that, that would be awesome. But I don't think they're doing that, right? I think that they're just having a Barbie that doesn't look stick thin, and then people are freaking out about that. Just like I think people, you know, freaked out when Barbie wasn't white, when they had Barbies that weren't white, all that stuff. And something that I actually noticed recently, and this is kind of going back to the movie, if you look at a lot of the marketing that they're doing, I think it's pretty obvious the two main Barbies that they're showing is Margot Robbie, and then the Ken doll is, what's his name? Oh, Ryan Gosling. I think that's who the Ken doll is, right? And they're like the prominent ones. But if you look at the marketing, there's tons of other Barbies that don't look like Margot Robbie, right? The skinny white woman, or that don't look like the regular Ken doll, right? Jake Gyllenhaal. Is it Jake Gyllenhaal? I don't remember which one it is. It's one of those guys, right? And so I think that they themselves are kind of trying to put that in the marketing of the movie. Again, I haven't seen the movie yet. I don't really know exactly. But I personally, just like how I feel about it, I think that to say that you can't, like, it's similar to when I talked about the whole Ariel thing, right? And there was that young woman that went to the Ariel premiere, or the Little Mermaid premiere, and she was just standing there, minding her own business, not saying that they need to cater to me, but just like, hey, it's Little Mermaid or whatever, and she was just excited, and then people started roasting her, saying that you can't be a mermaid, blah, 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 because she was a bigger young lady, right? And that's the vibe that I'm getting from this, and I just don't like that. Like, I think that it's always good to have, you know, representation and make people feel comfortable, and that's the way I think. That's how I feel about it. I think that people they just overreact to stuff like this. But again, that's just how I feel. I'm kind of curious to see what you guys think down in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.